Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and I'm back this week for another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. Let me introduce to you the gentleman that we have with us tonight. We're going to put on a fantastic show for you tonight. We have a lot of excellent topics for you. I'll tell you, one of the topics that we have tonight, I'm actually very excited to talk about because we were talking a little bit about it before we came on. But anyways, let me go ahead and introduce to you the gentleman with me tonight, Mr. Big B. How are you doing tonight, my man?
Doing good. Glad to have you back. I mean, we had an awesome show last week. Wish we could have heard your predictions or your fantasy matches, but hey, we'll do it again. But glad to be here talking wrestling.
Absolutely. All right. And then welcome in Joe. How you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm doing good. I just got done watching a very awesome sell over on TRC. They did some awesome business over there. I'm finishing up NXT at the moment, and I'm drinking a Coors. So life can't be any better right now.
Well, I would have been at that live sale tonight, but as you know, my aunt.
Congratulations on that too.
Cancer free, so we had to go out and celebrate her cancer free. So or else I definitely would have been there. But so welcome in.
Shots at that, my friend. Congratulations.
And Roger saying hi, guys. So hello, Roger. All right, and then of course welcome in Will. Will, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Just got done having another great week in TRC, and I'll tell you what, the ones that support me over there, the members and the team over there, just absolutely phenomenal. Had a great night. Really looking forward to talking some wrestling tonight. Really looking forward to talking some shit. Got a few things. I'm going to do my own version of a rant, but I'm not going to call it a rant because I'm not going to steal that from someone I respect. But can't wait to talk.
All right. Shall we get to it? Because I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great night. But all right, so we're going to go ahead and start out. Obviously, we'll start out with a little bit of a not a like full in depth recap of AEW and Impact, but we'll just kind of briefly touch on it. So, Joe, if you kind of want to give us that little bit of a rundown, a little bit of AEW from this past week.
Honestly, I haven't been catching too much wrestling other than bits and pieces, but I did watch a little bit of AEW last week, and they're starting out with the CM Punk storyline going in with him and Hangman, which I think is good. I honestly feel it's time to take the title off of Hangman. Take away from Dynamite, by far one of the match candidates for match of the year. FTR's qualifying match for the Owen Hart. Nice tribute to Owen and Brett. If you go back and you look at what they did compared to what Owen and Brett did back at WrestleMania 10, they were almost, some of it was move for move. Total respect for those two guys. I mean, those guys are just killing the tag team division right now, and two phenomenal single stars that just tore down the house, which made Dynamite very good for the week, because other than that, they didn't do really a whole lot. Went into Rampage, less than 500,000 views. And then the story coming out of that is AEW is looking at doing another show. It looks like it might be a reality-based show since their Warner Media merge. Mm-hmm. And they're asking for names on that. But I almost think that with the superstars that were their contracts were not renewed, we're starting to now see the true new AEW, so to speak.
All right, so Imy's saying, hey guys, so welcome in, Imy. We hope you're having a great night. All right,
so how much does views matter these days? We've covered this a bunch.
Yeah, we've covered that. The views don't matter because, especially with them, those guys are paying for it anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're on a network, but
right.
Always everybody wants to talk about the views. Oh, they fell below this and below that. Well, you know what? They're still on TV every week.
About the views, but I think it's because they don't understand the technology of it anymore. Back in 1997.
That mattered. I mean, that made me $1 million more on my paycheck or not.
Right. Yeah, but I think it all has to do with commercial promotion and all that, and you're not really doing that right now like you were. It's different, obviously. So I don't know. Everything now is done through streaming. It's done through media, social media, internet, Wi-Fi. How many people even really have cable anymore? You know?
Well, that's just it. I got cable, barely got cable, but
Well, and
you
how
know,
many people are watching it the day of?
I think that in the next 5 years,
Exactly.
that's all we're going to do is talk about streaming. How
Right.
wrestling's on streaming, and it looks like it's going to go that way. It looks like AEW might have something going on with HBO, which might be pretty cool. But then their big thing was the Forbidden Door with New Japan, so that should be interesting come the summertime.
Yeah,
But that is not the forbidden. That is not the forbidden.
No,
door.
they're just calling it the Forbidden Door, but I mean it's already been busted wide open. But
The forbidden door is not. Well, I'm going to sign a partnership with another company, and we're going to let each other wrestle each other. The forbidden door is showing up unannounced. Showing up where the fans don't know it's coming. They don't know there's a big agreement between the companies. All that stuff. That's the forbidden door.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Forbidden Door for me would have been WCW and WWE back in the day when DX knocked on that back gate, and they should have opened it up and just let him come right through.
Or a talent that's still signed in WWE showing up in AEW or showing up in Impact or showing up.
And the thing is that's never going to happen because of the social media and everything.
Right.
I mean, to me, social media is just killing all the surprises.
Okay, but the one, what's not only killing like social media isn't the only thing that's killing pro wrestling. The one thing that I will say that is killing pro wrestling, and I leave a lot of comments about this, in various wrestling groups I'm in, when people are saying fans is what's killing pro wrestling. And the reason why I'm saying it's the fans that are killing pro wrestling, it's because fans are never happy. Regardless of exactly what it is. They go, I want somebody to change this. And then they change something and they go, you know what? No, I want to change something else. I didn't like that. I'm like, okay, you asked for change and they change it and you still don't like it. So no matter which way you go.
Well, because we're greedy, man. We've been over the years, we know what we want and what we like and don't like. It's it's just like anything else. We're never going to be pleased with anything.
No, exactly. But that's why the comments that I leave are always like, I'm like, you guys, and I'm not saying you guys, I'm talking about, the people that leave these comments that say, you know what, AEW, WWE is killing wrestling. Like, no, you guys are killing it because you guys are the ones that are coming on here making stupid comments like that. And
one stupid comment, Hook and Danhausen are the Rock and Mankind comment.
Yeah. So somebody left a comment that said this is unbelievable. They're like, I never thought I would live to see a day to where Hook and Danhausen join an alliance, and now they're going to surpass the Rock and Mankind. I'm like, now that's ridiculous. I'm like, hold
on. Ridiculous. The one thing that could make them the same status as Rock and Mankind joining forces is if they have the same match that Rock and Mankind had at Royal Rumble 99, and they handcuff Danhausen. And then Hook ends up hitting him in the head with a chair like 10 times, like Rock did to Mankind. Then I would admit, I'd be like, okay, they're on the same level.
And that's probably the only company that will allow that because WWE won't allow that. So
let's book it.
Let's book it. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying it's comments like that.
Poor little Danhausen getting hit in the head, straight in the head with a chair like 10 times.
Yeah, but then he'll become the greatest hero ever, So there you go.
I would buy his figure. I'd buy his shirt.
Well, Ace has got a point, but the thing is, they're trying to split the fan base between, you can't. It's like you can't watch WWE if you're a fan of AEW and vice versa. And to me, it's like, I grew up watching all of wrestling. I mean, the only one that I really can't really get into is New Japan Wrestling. I can't because of the commentating. But outside of that, I watch it all. I'm a fan of wrestling in general. And, yeah, there's some things AEW's doing that I like. There's some things WWE's doing I like. And there's some things that both companies are doing that I can't stand. So, fans just got to be fans.
Yeah. So, just really quickly before we go into our next topic, just quickly on the recap of Impact. I will say the right guy right now in Impact has the Impact championship, and that's Josh Alexander. Now, a lot of people when they were saying, Moose is kind of there's several people out there who've said that Moose is kind of overrated. But I'll tell you, that match that Josh Alexander and Moose had at Rebellion, that was a hell of a match. Like Moose really, really did a fantastic job in that match.
Correct, and that was a great storyline build up too, because you had Moose who took the title from Alexander with his wife and his son in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander goes off, he comes back, he builds his way up to get that rematch, which I think we all can probably say that he was going to take it. But they still made that match so believable that it could have went either way in it. That was a really good storytelling. So kudos to Impact, because it's been a while that I can say Impact's done a really good job with the story building.
Yeah, that was like a 6-month story build right there, because that thing went on for 6 months. And that was incredible.
Yeah, and Alexander, his visa was up, his contract was actually up. He could have went signed somewhere else.
Yeah,
and he wound up going back to Impact and finishing this thing out the right way.
Yeah, which that was going to be my next question, was how many of you were actually shocked that Josh Alexander decided to re-sign with Impact instead of going to a bigger company? Because I know he could have.
From my understanding, he never even...
He's the big fish in a little pond. Why would he want the little fish in a big pond?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
And it fits him right now. I mean, really, like we could all talk about, I mean, look at all these NXT guys and gals that just got released. Some of them are probably going to go to AEW. Some are going to go to Impact. There's probably another round of cuts coming from NXT /
every 3 months
and the main roster.
Every 3 months.
He's at a good spot where he's at.
Yeah, like Will said, he's a big fish in a little pond right now. I mean,
and he's getting paid good money too. Yep. I mean, he was having to be a wrestler and a construction worker in Canada. He finally was able to quit being a construction worker and become a full-time pro wrestler. So that's a good thing for him. That means he's finally making money to be able to support his family and live out his dreams. So, really, really good for him.
Yeah, and we do know though that the Good Brothers' current Impact contract is about to be, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with the Good Brothers and their contract.
And can we shout out to Mickie James and Impact, because she may be the best thing going in Impact, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I love Mickie James. I think she is
Mickie James, but I also want to throw. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
There they go. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I was giving a shout out to Ray and Thomas Glenn and Thomas Burnett. Welcome everybody in. Welcome into the show. All right.
Chiefs in the house.
So how about we go ahead and jump into our Chiefs in the house. So this is our next topic was the topic that I was waiting for. And this is, if you could change one outcome in a match in history, what would you change? And so, Big B, I'll start with you on this. What would you change?
Good, because then Will can't steal my answers. God, what would I change? I mean,
he doesn't even know. Pass.
No, I mean, there's a lot of matches that I think one that sticks out to me would be the Rockers not winning the titles, or winning the titles and then getting them stripped in the Saturday night match where they were against the Hart Foundation and the top rope broke, so they kind of destroyed that storyline there. But the biggest one, I think, is Arquette winning the WCW title. I think that whole storyline should have just been. I mean, if you want Arquette to be involved, he could have, helped whoever win the title. But to put the title on him, I guarantee that was the biggest downfall of WCW. So those would be my two matches I would change for sure. Ace, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know. I'm on mute. Okay, so anyway, so Joe, how about you?
The Montreal screw job, because I am so sick and tired of hearing about it over the years. Was it a shoot? Was it a work? Did they know? Did they not know? Oh my gosh. Just business should have been done totally different on that point. So if Sean was supposed to win, then Sean should have won. Brett should have just dropped it. Peace out. Go on to WCW, make his millions of dollars, and ride off. But that's probably the one that I really think that probably should have changed. And oh man, I think Hogan should have won the AWA World Title back in the day over Bockwinkel.
Yep.
Because I think if that would have happened, that probably would have been one of the big things that would have changed professional wrestling, because that's one of the things that made Hogan really want to leave, besides being able to do movies and things like that, and the whole territory was starting to change. But Hogan was so upset with AWA for not being able to get the world title after he's been promised it for so long. That could have changed a whole lot of wrestling history right there.
Yeah, well, Ace is getting situated there. Will, how about you?
My turn.
Yeah,
So-
go ahead, Will.
So great points, great matches. The only thing I would say about the whole Arquette thing is how would it have changed things? What would it have changed? And that's kind of the whole point, is how would things have changed. I wanted to cover a couple comments too. Chief Thomas Glenn saying, "Big B, what's up?" Thomas Brunette shouting out saying that he thinks Alexa might be next on the cutting block. I don't necessarily think he's wrong, because I think Alexa would be very happy to be on the cutting block and go somewhere else, because, as you know, she has a close friendship with Braun Strowman. So I think that's very possible. If you could change a match, Roger Cooper saying Sting and Hogan, Starrcade 97. So there's been a lot of discussion about that match in the past. And that's definitely one that we need to review one night. Hogan beat Sting clean in that match, and they did the hold of the bell. They wouldn't let the bell ring. Hogan pinned Sting 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. So if you didn't know that, go back and watch it. It's pretty cool. And then, of course, you had Sting, put him in the Scorpion, all that stuff. The match two things. Number one, from a fan perspective, biggest match of all time that I would have changed fan perspective-wise was back in 1993, obviously, Lex Luger winning the World Championship from Yokozuna at SummerSlam, which Kev Buckler threw in there too. But that's what he would have changed. And I've talked about that at length over and over and over. That I think that was a huge missed opportunity for WWF back in the day. They could have done so much more with that, but they didn't. However, the match that I think should have been changed, and Joe may want to correct me on the dates, but I believe it was Bash at the Beach 2000, where Jeff Jarrett lays down for Hogan to pin him with the boots. And, of course, then they say Hogan's leaving the company, will never be back. And it ends up being Jarrett and Booker T for the world title. I think that shouldn't have happened. I think they should have had their match. Hogan could have won it. Hogan could have had the championship. And you very easily could have had Booker T come out on the same card, same event, same night, challenge Hogan, put Booker T over. Putting Booker T over Hulk Hogan does a whole lot more for the company than putting Booker T over Jeff Jarrett, because a lot of current fans at the time, talking 22 years ago, a lot of current fans at the time still thought of Jeff Jarrett as Double J, J-E, double F, J-A, double R, E, double T, the whole country music thing where he was going to be the country music singer in WWF. So he wasn't as highly regarded and thought of as they were trying to make him out to be in 2000. Now, of course, they built him up, and he had done some things in WWF. He'd been Intercontinental Champion, I believe European Champion, Tag Champions, different things. So, I mean, he definitely had some career things going, but he was not the built-up champion, nor was anybody really at the time as Hulk Hogan. So putting Booker T over Jeff Jarrett was a great moment for Booker T winning his first world title, but nowhere near what it could have been had you put Booker T over Hulk Hogan at that Bash at the Beach. Either way, obviously Hogan was leaving the company. Obviously he was going to take some time off. There were some things going on there either way. But if you had Hogan take that fall, do the job for Booker there, imagine the momentum that could have put behind WCW. And the whole purpose of even talking about this match, and yes, I love the idea of talking about SummerSlam 93. I could talk about that all night long. I love that match. But this, I think, could have gave the momentum to WCW to say, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, we may have Vince Russo running things. Eric Bischoff may be nowhere to be found. But now we have a champion that people can believe in. This guy just beat Hulk Hogan. You know, I think that means a whole lot more.
All right,
Gives
so
WCW momentum, and maybe WCW doesn't close down. What was it? 8 months later after that? Like
Pretty
8 months?
much, yeah. 2001,
So,
March.
Yeah, March of
Michael
01.
said.
And that was what? July of 2000, right?
June, July. Bash at the Beach was June, I believe. They were
I think
changing
it's July.
pay-per-views around, so it's either June or July. Yeah.
I think it's July of 2000.
So
Yeah.
the match that you were talking about, Will, Thomas Burnett says it was Bash at the Beach in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, July 9, 2000.
Yeah.
That's
July.
what-
Okay. Yeah, because they kept going back and forth because they would throw Great American Bash in there, Bash at the Beach. They never knew which way they were going.
Right.
And for me, when it came down to it, there was like a few of them that I was like, kind of interested me a little bit when I thought about it. And, number one, and I kind of went with the current time just a little bit, but what happens if CM Punk beats John Cena to retain his title? Does CM Punk re-sign with WWE, or does he in fact still leave the company? So that was one that I thought about. I'm like, what happens? Because at that point, if he retains, he very well could be like, okay, I'm staying. So that could have changed the whole the whole outcome of what happened with CM Punk. And
so speaking of that,
Yeah.
if you really look into that whole thing,
But didn't CM Punk win that?
you're talking about Money in the Bank and then SummerSlam 2011, Cena and CM Punk, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so why
Cena
were
won
they
that, right?
so-
Yeah.
Why were they so
Punk won
hell
it.
bent at that moment in time at keeping the belt off of CM Punk? Do you remember SummerSlam? Punk beats Cena for the second time at SummerSlam for the title, wins the title, and then immediately they strip it off of him and put it on somebody else. They did the Money in the Bank cash in.
Yeah.
It's like something was going on that nobody knew, even though the internet was hopping at that point. It's like something was happening backstage, and they still were not comfortable with him carrying their belt. Now, of course, a little bit later, they were, because I believe, if I'm correct, it was Alberto Del Rio got it off of Punk. Then it ends up going into a match with Cena and Alberto. Cena takes it off Alberto. Alberto takes it back. And then Punk beats Alberto. I could be wrong about the order there, but it's pretty damn close to that order. I mean, we're talking 11 years ago, but I'm pretty damn sure it was that order. And then they finally feel comfortable putting it on Punk, right? And then Punk holds it for like 400 and something days until Royal Rumble 2013, and then he goes into this Falls Count Anywhere or whatever, no disqualification match or whatever against The Rock, because they tell Punk, if you get disqualified, we'll take the title from you at that Royal Rumble match, right? I'm pretty sure I'm right about all that, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a Royal
you're
Rumble.
right.
Yeah.
I think Punk won the belt at at Money in the Bank, though. Remember, because that was in Chicago.
He won it Money in the Bank. Then he won it again at SummerSlam same year,
Right.
because
Okay.
remember they held it up,
Yes.
and because they
That's when
declared a
he came
champion.
back with his music, Cult of Personality. Yes, you're
But
right.
they declared a champion because Punk left. They
Right.
declared a champion on Raw, where it was John Cena versus Mysterio.
Yep.
Mhm.
John Cena wins, and then Punk comes out, holds his belt up.
No, it was Ray
Belt up.
that won that.
Remember?
No,
What?
It was
No,
Ray.
it was Ray. It was Ray who originally won it, but then backstage, John Cena came up and said, "Ray, I'm wrestling you later for the title." And so John Cena won that, and then CM Punk comes out, and then later on they had a match that Cena won.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So it's recognized as another championship run by Cena. So Cena gets it. Then technically Cena drops it to Punk.
In
at
August.
SummerSlam. Then Nash comes out, power bombs Punk, right?
Yes, and
then
Alberto cashes in.
Alberto comes in,
Yep.
cashes in. And then I think what happened from that point on, I could be wrong, but I think what happened is Alberto drops it to Cena at Hell in the Cell or No Mercy or something.
Night of
Unforgiven.
Champions.
Night of Champions, yes.
Yep.
Then Alberto wins it back and then
Hell in the
loses
Cell.
it, and then loses it to Punk.
At Survivor Series. Yep.
Right.
And Punk goes on that historical run at the time with the championship until he loses it to The Rock.
Right.
In
Rock goes on
2013.
for Cena, once in a lifetime 2.
He goes on the historical run and he gets the manager
Yep.
Paul Heyman to be with him.
Yeah, and we get Punk and Undertaker at WrestleMania.
What a tremendous time to be a fan. I remember seeing him several times live. I mean, just great matches. Huge entrance pops, all that stuff. So, and then of course goes on, drops it to The Rock, so The Rock can drop it to Cena at WrestleMania 29. But tremendous storyline. All that being said, I hope we all got the main point though of what telling that whole story was to kind of push it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, which what happens at that point if CM Punk holds it? What happens?
Exactly. And why were they so afraid at that August point, that July point, even that September point? Why were they so afraid to put that strap on him? Because what they did in October, November, because it was November at Survivor Series when Punk gets it. Big B just clarified.
Yep.
What was the difference in July and November for Punk to have that belt? So what was going on backstage?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he having some trouble?
Kind of makes you wonder, right?
Well, yeah.
Wasn't he having some troubles back then?
Well,
he must have.
Yeah, so he did have a interview that they were talking about, and now he talked about when he went in Vince's office. When he went into Vince's office to have a conversation about his contract, he said he goes in there. Hunter was in the room at the same time, and so he said when he was talking to Vince, and he said, yeah, he got heated. And then you remember when CM Punk wrestled Triple H at WrestleMania and Triple H won? Right. Well, so CM Punk said at that point he was kind of upset, and he actually looked at Hunter and said, look, let's clarify this. CM Punk's like, Hunter, you need me more than I need you.
Right.
Like you needed to beat me or whatever, but Punk's like, to him it made no sense that he lost. And so that's kind of what put it over the edge right there. But
right.
That was the one I was saying. And then the other one that I was talking about was that I really wonder if they would have changed the outcome between Undertaker and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, who would have indeed beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania? Would Roman Reigns have actually been the first one to do it?
I think it would have been Cena.
You think so?
Yep. Because at the time, so just for clarification, just what we were just talking about with the whole Punk thing and not trusting him with the title and everything else, every time ever during that period from like 2002 to like, I don't know, probably somewhere around 2015, 2016, the trust level they had in John Cena was just through the roof. So right then and there, back in 2011, you can see the trust they had. They didn't know what they were doing with their champion. They didn't know what they were doing with their events. So their whole thing in the back was, well, just put the belt back on Cena until we figure out what we're doing. Think about that. I mean, just during that time frame, Cena had the belt going into Money in the Bank, right? He was a champion. He loses to Punk. They're like, we don't really know what we're doing. Something's going on with Punk that we don't know, about as fans. So they're like, well, hurry up and put it back on Cena before anything happens. They put it back on Cena because they trust Cena. Then, they're still not sure they trust Punk. They put it back on Punk. They put it on Del Rio. Then they're like, we don't really know what's going to happen. Hurry up and put it back on Cena. Well, maybe we can trust Punk. Put it back on Del Rio so Punk can take it off Del Rio, and then, we'll go from there. But if you just look at how the trust factor was, they trusted John Cena more than anything. And that's just in that one little section of time. There's so many different elements of time where they put that trust into John Cena. And here's another thing, too. And I want to cover this point, and I know we got to move on to some other cool stuff, but I always hear this over and over and over. who's the greatest 16-time champion, Ric Flair, woo, or John Cena? And here's the thing, two different eras, two different times, two different everything. First of all, I don't think any of us should be comparing in-ring stuff between Flair and Cena. In the ring, world champion, different time. Flair was multiple-time world champion in a time where belts didn't change hands every week. So as a wrestler, Ric Flair, greatest wrestler of all time, above John Cena as a 16-time champion. As a person, as an entertainer, as a total package, John Cena is by far a better overall person than Ric Flair could have ever dreamed to have been. Because, I mean, I'm not saying anything anybody doesn't know. Ric Flair wasn't a very good person. He was an entertaining wrestler. He went 60 minutes, 6 nights a week, and he held 16 world championships in multiple different companies at multiple different times. He was in and out of, 7 different continents, wrestling people and all that stuff. People have this mindset where they have to compare Ric Flair and John Cena because they both had the title 16 times. But in reality, nobody really thinks about it. But Ric Flair was actually like an 18-time world champion and not a 16-time world champion. He just has some reigns in there that no one ever recognizes. So hopefully anybody listening, and especially anybody in this room right now that's listening, there's no comparing John Cena as a wrestler and Ric Flair as a wrestler, world champions. And if you want to compare title reigns, Ric Flair has more title reigns than John Cena and any other world heavyweight champion, even if some of them are not recognized. I guarantee you at some point in history, they will go back and they'll recognize them because they have gone back and recognized other title reigns. Even WCW, all the way up until the day the doors closed, didn't want to recognize Ric Flair's 2 WWF World Championship reigns.
Yep.
But they do now, of course. And if you go back in time and you look, WWE doesn't want to recognize that on Saturday night's main event, Ric Flair won the World Championship, WCW World Championship, back from Ricky Steamboat after Spring Stampede '94. But he did, and it's not a recognized title change, but it was, so there's some things there. But the whole comparison of Flair and Cena, why don't you compare the people that they are? Why don't you compare John Cena doing 500 plus Make-A-Wish things, more than any other athlete, more than any other actor, stuff like that? Why don't you compare that stuff? Why don't we go out there and compare? I'm not going to use any deceased athletes, but why don't we go out there and compare LeBron James Make-A-Wish stuff to John Cena's? Or let's go out there and compare, some of these heavyweight world champion boxers, or these YouTubers that are making $30 million a fight, supposedly. Why don't we compare some of those guys to John Cena? Let's forget about the 16-time world champion. Let's talk about how many Make-A-Wish Foundation things that John Cena's done. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to rant about that. I hate even calling it a rant. I'm not stealing somebody else's rant, but I just wanted to keep it real. I'll call it keeping it real. I wanted to keep it real about that. What do you think, Joe?
Bro, I got nothing to say on that, man. Holy Jesus Christ, man. That was good. I'm proud of you. But you're right, though. I mean, Flair's reigns as champions, he's actually probably up in the 20s there. I mean, if you go back and look, and Wikipedia is pretty good about keeping all those titles that he won and lost that are not recognized. Championship reigns, there's no comparison because it's 2 different eras, like, as you said. In the 80s, state champion for over 100, over a year, sometimes 34. I mean, look at Hogan. Had a 4-year run, champion.
Yep.
So,
you know what, though, Will, to kind of go
sponsored by Top Rope Collective.
Yeah, to go off that though, you kind of touched upon to what I've always said in the sports world anyways. Whenever everybody's like, oh, this guy's the GOAT in the NFL, this guy's the GOAT in the NBA, this guy's the GOAT in MLB, I've always said
Jordan's the GOAT, all right?
I've always said you can't have a true GOAT, and the reason for it is because no matter what sport, if it's wrestling or whatever, You can't have a true GOAT because of different eras, and it's just not fair. You can't compare the different eras because of how much the game has changed.
Tom Brady's the GOAT. Get over it.
You can't say that because of different eras. But anyways, but anyways,
Michael Jordan's the GOAT.
But-
LeBron could not hang with Jordan in his era. Absolutely not.
You cannot compare Joe Montana to Tom Brady.
You can't because it's a different era. You can't do it.
Michael Jordan could compete against LeBron James in this era. I'm telling you, LeBron would be a crying ass bitch.
Yeah, he would. I get that.
He would get elbow and cry.
You know, go back to Will's point about comparing Flair's title reigns to John Cena's or anybody's title reign.
Yeah.
Look at the time frame. How long did Flair have those titles for compared to like John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H? I mean, they're changing titles so often now that, they get a month or two. Flair had it probably for years, so.
Mm-hmm.
He
so
did,
that's
and
one big
they
comparison.
meant something too. I mean, Cena's championship reigns, some of them meant something, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them were just, transitional or flip-flopping
or we trust him until
we have to go with this because this is what we know will get done.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I just covered that in detail. I don't want to get started again, Big B. Don't get me started, Big B.
It's fine. So I know that there's probably topics.
I'll make him start keeping it real again.
Yeah, Big B.
I know there's a topic that you really, really want to talk about. So this next one we'll come back to, but the big one that I know you want to talk about is the historical moment in time.
Hey, speaking of CM Punk, man, he's on Mayans tonight on the new episode of Mayans. Check it out.
So we'll jump to that one. So historical moment in time. It's in your house. Number one, May 1995. WWE goes to full-time event schedule.
Yes. So let's take a little trip back in time, guys. WrestleMania 11. Let's talk about WrestleMania 11. They expect this to be a humongous pay-per-view. Comes to you from Connecticut. I think it was the Hartford Civic Center in Connecticut. WrestleMania 11, 1995. April 2nd, 1995, as a matter of fact. Pay-per-view, pretty much not the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Pretty much not even the greatest pay-per-view of 1995, as a matter of fact. Main events there. Diesel and Shawn Michaels. Diesel retains the world title by jackknife and Shawn Michaels. Lawrence Taylor ends up beating Bam Bam Bigelow in the main event. Really not a big deal. But the thing is, they decided to go to a full-time pay-per-view schedule because you got to remember, up to that point, they had only been running 5 major events. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. Only 5 main events or pay-per-view premium live events, as they call them now, at the time. So they decide, you know what, it's time. We're going to do a monthly pay-per-view. Every single month, we're going to have a build-up to a pay-per-view, and we're going to go from there. So they finish out WrestleMania 11. A lot of storylines that should have ended at WrestleMania 11 did not end at WrestleMania 11, and it bleeds over to the very first In Your House pay-per-view in May of 1995. The very first pay-per-view, first match of that pay-per-view is Bret Hart versus Hakushi. And Bret Hart has agreed to do 2 matches on this pay-per-view. It's not a full-length pay-per-view. It's only an hour and 40 minutes long. And the actual pay-per-view ends up having some very high-caliber matches on there. Very high-caliber main event type matches. First match of the night, Bret Hart versus Hakushi. Bret goes over Hakushi. Then you've got Razor Ramon and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's got the Road Dogg in his corner. Handicap match, not so much of a good match. You also have the Smoking Guns versus Owen and Yoko, because at WrestleMania 11, Owen and Yoko being Owen's surprise tag team partner, comes out. They take the tag titles from the Smoking Guns, and they have the return match at In Your House 1. They also gave away a free house that night in Orlando, which I don't know how true that whole thing is, or if that was a gimmick and some BS. I don't know, but
actually, that's true though. That house is there.
Supposedly, yeah, they gave away this free house in Orlando, so a lot of cool stuff there. Sid versus Diesel, because Sid the night after WrestleMania attacks Shawn Michaels and powerbombs him 5 times in the middle of the ring, and it was just totally awesome to see it. And you didn't even see it the night that it happened, because back then Raw cut off right at the 1 hour. Mm-hmm. So you didn't even see it happen. All you saw on Monday Night Raw was Shawn Michaels telling Sid the next time he had a rematch with Diesel that Sid could have the night off, and then Sid said, "Oh no, you don't give me the night off." And then Raw goes off the air.
Yep.
So you're watching Raw, and it goes off the air, and you're like, "Oh man, I wonder what happened." The beginning of the very next week's Monday Night Raw, and of course that weekend you had Mania, you had Superstars, you had all that stuff coming on, but at the beginning of the very next week's Monday Night Raw, it shows Sid snaps, power bombs Shawn Michaels 5 times in the center of the ring. And if you look at the power bombs he does, he's like throwing them way up in the air and dropping them. And I mean, it looks like it really, really is destroying Shawn Michaels. Diesel, comes out, runs the ring, ends up saving Shawn for, what would have been, certain doom or whatever. And then it sets up Diesel versus Sid for the main event at the very first In Your House for the WWF Championship, the old Winged Eagle belt. But that doesn't end up being the main event. The main event ends up being Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler, I believe, right? I believe that's. Or am I wrong?
No, Lawler and Hart was 6 right before that match.
Okay, all right. So I'm wrong about that. So that ends up being the main event. So Sid and Diesel end up being the World Championship match. But, Diesel wins. It goes into setting up the main event for King of the Ring, which is Diesel and Bam Bam against Sid and Tatanka, which ultimately leads to the second In Your House in July of '95, which is a lumberjack match between Sid and Diesel to squash that feud. So, the ramifications and the things that come out of that very first In Your House are forever historically important because of the things that happen. Just before that, like I said, Sid powerbombed Shawn. It turned Shawn into a good guy. Shawn's first time he's been a face or a good guy since 1991 when he was a rocker. So you're talking 4 years. He was a heel. Ultimately, it leads to Shawn winning his next Intercontinental Championship, which I believe was his third Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Jarrett in July of '95. And then, of course, he goes on to the second ladder match at SummerSlam '95, Razor versus Shawn, #2 ladder match. And then ultimately it leads to Shawn becoming world champion the next year at WrestleMania. So a lot of things come out, a lot of historical moments come out of this 1 hour and 40-minute pay-per-view, guys. In Your House 1, great matches, very entertaining. Go back and watch it. Back when characters were wrestling characters, great stuff.
All right. So did you guys get to Thomas's questions yet?
No,
we haven't yet. Will was talking.
So his question was, he's saying, "Are you sure Sid's heel turn wasn't televised?"
It wasn't. It wasn't. Not until the next week. I'm positive. The next week it was, but that night it went off the air.
Yeah, I would almost agree with Will, but yeah, because they cut it right at the hour mark. I mean, they're.
Yep.
It wasn't until WCW started stretching their program is when Raw started stretching theirs a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and he said he also said, "Don't forget Bret hurt his ankle getting out of the ring after his match against Ishii."
That was if you're not going to watch the pay-per-view, I'll tell you that was a scheme that Bret pulled. Supposedly he hurt his knee jumping out of the ring after he beat Hakushi. So Jerry Lawler was overly confident going into the match against Bret. And then, of course, Bret comes out. He's perfectly fine. He's not injured. They have a hella good match. And then ultimately, Jerry Lawler ends up beating Bret Hart at this first ever In Your House, which leads to the Kiss My Foot match at King of the Ring '95. But we'll cover that later on.
All right. And then his comment that I missed before was, it said Cena's first reign was almost a year.
Yeah, no. But that was back in 2005. That doesn't have anything to do with
today. Yeah. Which we know that as of today, the only real title reigns that anybody has really had was CM Punk when he had it over 400 days, and then now Reigns. Those are like the two actual longest title reigns right now.
Are you forgetting Goldberg? No, I'm just kidding.
Goldberg.
Hold on a second.
You forgot
Hold on a
Lesnar.
second.
Don't forget Lesnar's running there. Lesnar, the long run.
Oh yeah.
Hold on a second though, because he said that Cena's first run was
Was
almost a year.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was, because he won it at Mania 21, which would have been in April of 05. And didn't he lose it to Rob Van Dam in June of 05?
I'm looking here.
At the ECW event.
Yes, that's right.
So I don't think it was, because I think he lost it a couple months in.
So Cena took it from
or was that 06?
JBL in 05 at Mania.
Yeah.
He had it for 280 days, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, because
Who did he lose it to?
Edge.
He lost it to Edge at New Year's Revolution.
Yeah, it was after that. I believe
then
it was
he got it back
after,
at the Rumble.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
like
and then he
after
faced Shawn at
match?
WrestleMania that year because it was supposed to be Triple H and Cena, and Triple H got hurt.
No. In 06, he faced Triple H.
He lost it to Rob Van Dam after the Rumble. One night stand.
06, which is WrestleMania 22, he faces Triple H. It's 07, WrestleMania 23, he faces Shawn.
Was it?
Yeah. Yep. I remember that.
So Thomas Glenn is saying the longest title reigns are Moolah is over 10,000 days.
Yep.
San Martino was 2,800 days. Gagne was 2,600. I can't really read some of this.
Backlund at 2,100. Gotch at 1,800. Hogan at 14. Race at 900. Flair at 800. RBD at 700.
Now notice out of that list that Flair is second to the bottom.
Right. At 800 days.
Think about that. You know, we call him the greatest of all time, but he's second to the bottom.
But that's just WWE stats. That's not.
No, that's every stat. That's not.
No, that was every one.
That's every stat.
Pretty soon, Reigns isn't losing anytime soon. So pretty soon his title reign will be.
If you think about it, if you try to measure it in
he's got it wrong, because
if you try to measure it in days held, then we're saying that Moolah was the greatest world champion of all time.
Right,
bro.
But
we're all wrong on that.
I'm looking at Wikipedia now. There says Bruno.
I think she was the greatest.
Days.
I think she was probably the greatest madam of all time.
She took a lot of women's money.
They're saying San Martino's reign was 4,040 days. It's two combined reigns. Or are we talking one reign at a time?
One reign at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because I can tell you, Flair's, if it would have to be more than one reign, because for Flair, one reign for him was 800 days, because there's no way all of his reigns would be 800 days total. There would be no way.
No, but you can't compare. There's no comparison with days or any of that stuff. How often did Moolah wrestle?
Yep.
And Flair was wrestling 6 days a week, an hour at a time. Sometimes twice a day, at an hour at a time. So you still can't compare that way. I mean, it's impressive, yes, no doubt, but there's no way to compare any of that.
Yeah. No, I get it. You're right. That it was only Moolah would wrestle once in a blue moon.
Right.
Bruno probably wrestled that same amount of time too.
Because there for a while, it seemed like Bruno only wrestled at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but it seemed like he only wrestled at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, you're right.
So we'll go to our next one, which is the historical move, the Texas Cloverleaf.
Absolutely. Talking about different variants, different submission holds that are still used today. I recently saw this move used. I think it was in Impact, and I'm sure somebody can get on there, jump in there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was on Impact. The Texas Cloverleaf was almost like a version or a variant of the sharpshooter or the scorpion
Yeah.
deathlock. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, the best person I've ever seen put it on was Dean Malenko. And,
Yeah.
instead
That's
of
the first
stepping
person
through,
that comes up when you Google it.
yeah, instead of stepping through, and putting it on, it was basically the exact same thing as a sharpshooter, except for you didn't step through. And, absolutely impressive move. And, a lot of these historical moves didn't make it. They're not around today. Like the stump puller, you don't see. Some of the other moves, the Ultimo Sleeper, you don't see. But the Texas Cloverleaf, I just recently saw it used. I can't remember if it was AEW or if it was Impact, but I want to say it was Impact. Very, very impressive move. I would highly recommend if you're into moves and you like seeing stuff, remembering the nostalgia of that stuff. I would seriously recommend going back, checking it out, look into that. Really, really cool. Texas Cloverleaf guys.
Yeah, it was like the sharpshooter, kind of like a Boston Crab. I would say reversed, because you're holding the legs instead of the sharpshooter goes in between.
You cross the legs into a four, number 4.
Yeah.
And hook the
So
arms
then
in
you're
between
holding the
and
legs
you flip
up,
them over.
Yeah. It's almost identical to a sharpshooter, but literally you don't step in between like you do for the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
So, but very impressive. And honestly, when I was a kid and we would all wrestle each other, I would use that move, several times, and nobody could not submit. Everybody had to tap out.
So
do not do that at home.
So speaking of submissions, though, I don't know if you heard Chris Jericho's original story when he said when he first wanted to do the Walls of Jericho, they asked him, how he got the name, and he said, well, originally they wanted to call it the Salad Shooter. And Jericho's like, the salad shooter. So he's so they go, do you have another idea? And he said, yeah. And he said that there was like some cassette tape in front of him or something in it, and it was called like the Walls. And he's like, hey, how about we call it the Walls of Jericho? And they said, okay. So yeah, they almost called that the Salad Shooter, but
honestly, I kind of, looking back on it, wish they would have called it the Salad Shooter. What's your finishing move? The Salad Shooter.
The salad.
So, guys, a couple comments real quick. I don't want to lose these. Chief saying one at a time. Yep. Thomas Brunette popping in saying Serena Deeb has used the Texas Clover. Mm-hmm. That's probably where I saw it. It was probably possibly Serena Deeb versus.
It was this past week, actually.
Yeah. You probably
that was what her Mercedes, I think.
Mercedes, you're probably right.
Yeah, it was this past week.
And then Roger Cooper popping in saying Malenko had the best Texas Cloverleaf, but did like it when Sheamus would use it. See, I forgot all about Sheamus using it.
No, I forgot about it too.
That's another historical move used. Sheamus did it too. So Roger Cooper, great point out there. Sheamus would use it also. Ray saying, spoiler, why send Natalya and the Viking Raiders to NXT to lose? That makes sense. I agree with you.
Hey, I tell you what, though, if you didn't watch that match, that was an awesome match.
I haven't got a
Viking Raiders and Creed Brothers match. Go all your way, watch it. It was really good.
I was gonna
Viking Raiders look a lot better on NXT than they do on the main roster.
So you just ruined it for Ace because he hasn't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna watch
Ace. You
Thomas
you don't know who won. I just told you it was a good match.
Who originated the Texas Cloverleaf, guys?
I didn't tell you that Goldberg came out and spared everybody.
Right. Who invented the Texas Cloverleaf?
Right. Who originated it?
It wasn't Malenko.
No.
It's got to come from Japan.
I looked it up. I saw it because I didn't think we were going to get to the answer.
Go ahead, Big B.
They're saying Funk Jr. did it. Dory
Funk Jr.?
Dory Funk Jr. Yep.
Because I thought it was Malenko too, but he made it famous.
Speaking of that, I'm going to see him in a short amount of time, and he's really up there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing old Dory Funk Jr.
He's got his wrestling show up there in Ocala.
Yeah, I'm going to see him in Charlotte, but definitely looking forward to seeing him. I'm going to bring up the Texas Cloverleaf to him now, the originator.
Have
you
him
gonna
put it
put it
on
on
you.
him?
We want pictures.
I might put it on him.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna say.
may break him.
I'll be like, I use this when I was a kid wrestling my little buddies. So let's see how it works on you, buddy.
Yeah, it's like
I want to see him put it on you.
Well, it's like the
I'm a
meme.
big guy. It'd be hard to turn.
It's like the meme that they have on Facebook that says, if anybody tells you that they don't like pro wrestling, put that jabroni in a sharpshooter and show them
Figure 4.
what's up.
You don't need that negativity in your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, just put them in.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, you don't. But we're at that point now to where we can finally give our final thoughts here. We're almost at that mark. So, Big B, what you got for us?
No, thanks for everybody commenting. The Chief, always great to hear from you. Enjoyed your show Saturday. I still missed the rant. I'll have to go back and watch your rant because I was looking forward to it. But everybody else, thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting. It's always great to be with these three guys and reading your guys' comments, talking wrestling. One of my favorite things to talk about all week long. So definitely keep checking out Coast to Coast, Top Rope Collectibles, and keep sharing.
Yeah, we got many big things coming to C2C coming up here soon. So, all right, Joe, any final thoughts for you? And
Yeah, we need a studio like those guys have on Saturdays, man. That Thoughts Count Anywhere. I was watching it. Holy cow, man! They got state of the art stuff going on over there. Great show, by the way.
They're all together.
Yeah.
Hey,
in Oregon, we're in Florida.
well,
I'm in
you and I can work that out somehow. Those
Yeah.
two guys. This show is always about us, anyways. You know that. They're just along for the ride. Those sidekicks. Without us, it goes downhill.
Right.
That's alcohol talking, folks. There you go.
That's what
Stone cold proof there.
5%.
No, guys, honestly, it's always good, man. It's probably I got a crazy work week coming up, so it's always good just to be able to sit down and relax a little bit, shoot the breeze, drink a couple drinks, and talk about play wrestling. But it's always good to do it with a bunch of friends and family, as I consider you guys, family. And everybody listening, always thank you guys for listening to us. Ace, congrats on your grandmother there. That's awesome news to hear.
It was his aunt.
It was his aunt.
Other than that, man, you guys got to check out all the podcasts that goes on this weekend. Check out TRC. They do awesome. That's it for me.
Absolutely.
So
All right.
hopefully it's my turn.
Yes, it is your turn.
All right.
Hold on. Yeah, okay.
So he had more than
I got
just
one more.
what he had on the live because I don't know what the hell he said, but I support what he said. But so congratulations on your aunt, and that's really awesome.
I thought it was his grandmother.
No, this is
Because you can't read good, man.
Son of a bitch. My bad.
Don't worry.
Congratulations on your
I got
family.
it
I'm glad
covered
they're
for
healthy.
you, Joe. No problem. Guys, really appreciate it. Have so much fun. I love going down the nostalgic path and talking about what it was like. You got to remember too. I mean, a lot of us were like 9, 10, younger than 9 or 10 at the time. Young kids when a lot of this stuff was happening, and just such cool stuff. And it was so real and so believable. And it almost sucks now, looking back on it, that our kids will never get a lot of these different feelings and excitement like we did, during that time. But hopefully we can continue to let them know what it was like and share, and they'll find that kind of excitement and that kind of pleasure in different things now, because that's so important, is to make sure that, you're sharing those happy moments, those exciting times, and, never ever stifle someone's excitement. If someone wants to be excited about something, cheer them on for it, man. Don't shut them down. Don't stop them from being excited. Don't stop them from that happy moment. Cheer them on, encourage them, let them get a little loud, let them get a little excited, and that's okay, and that's kind of what I want to end on, is letting people know, taking care of people. Hell, I do it all the time. Huge thank you to my guys, TRC, Top Rope Collectibles, Tag Team Champs Wrestling Auctions, Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, Thoughts Count Anywhere, Chief It Ain't Easy, Aaron Phillips, Matt Mullen, all those great guys, Thomas Brunette. Shout out to everybody. Thanks for all the support for everything. you guys really do make a huge difference, and I personally appreciate everybody involved. So, I wanted to make sure I got those plugs out there, and man, I can't wait till next week already. So,
Did you
Something
forget
like that.
Crispy B this week?
What?
Did you forget Crispy Bacon this week?
No, I always tell Crispy Bacon that I appreciate it.
Okay, just
Right?
making sure. Sorry.
You're over here talking about people's grandmas. Ain't nobody talking about no grandma. You worry about me talking about Crispy
Hey,
Bacon.
ain't nothing wrong with no grandmas, man. I tell you what, there's some good grandmothers.
Shout out to Crispy Bacon. Shout out to Mess Around Dave. Shout out to Dragon Viper. I'm done. Have a great night, guys. I'm trying to catch up to
Right.
Joe. I've only had a
Jesus.
few.
Where's Mess Around Dave at when we need him?
Can somebody mute Joe?
Well, anyways, we definitely do want to thank you all for being here. And of course, Thursday, don't forget, if you want to watch a little bit of OVW, you can watch it right here live on Coast to Coast. So with that, we hope everybody has a fantastic night. And you can catch myself and Big B tomorrow on an episode of Sports Minute. So everybody have a fantastic night, and we'll see you later.